A-To-Z Reseller Podcast, episode 36. I'm Jamie, and this is
Jon.
I just about caught you off guard there, Jon. How's it been going this week?
Pretty good, pretty good. It's been, obviously still a bit of a struggle with the Canada Post strike and, sales just being a little bit different as a result. But overall, can't complain. It's been an okay week. Still making some sales and, learning a lot. So that's good.
Yeah, it does give us an opportunity to think out the box, especially with with the Canada Post strike still going on. The one thing that I did kind of want to touch on too was, Poshmark is for me, and I think now you have started to use Stallion Express. Poshmark's really the only question mark if you found an alternative to Canada Post, right? Canada Post is the only option for Poshmark Canada. So that's kind of the big question mark. But for me, I'm just curious how you've been treating it, only because I'm still using my automation tool. So I'm still using Sidekick, Sidekick tools, I guess. I always want to call it Posh Sidekick still. I'm trying to train my brain, but so I'm still doing on Poshmark Canada and Poshmark US. I'm still doing daily auctions. I'm still sending offers to likers. I'm still listing on those platforms. The US one doesn't matter anyway, but I'm still listing and doing everything like I did before. I'm not getting the same amount of sales, but I've still got I think 3 or 4 sales this past week on Poshmark Canada that are going to just sit there. But you reach out to somebody and say, hey, you're aware of the strike, this, and if they're okay with it, for now it just sits there. If you're doing nothing, you're just going to sit here with your store on vacation mode and not try. When the strike's over, you're going to lose out on, even if it's just a handful of sales, they're not going to be there because you didn't try. Are you doing the same thing?
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing, and I think that it's it's as much for the algorithm as anything. I mean, I've still got all those same automation tools turned on. I haven't changed anything, so I've still got sending out offers to likers, my usual discount amount with discounted shipping. I haven't been doing as many of the silent auctions or whatever. Like I haven't been setting those up. But that's not really anything different. Like that's just me being lazy and kind of forgetting to do it because I traditionally haven't been doing a lot of them. But yeah, I mean, my philosophy is, sure, I can't ship your orders and you can't really do anything with Poshmark, but at the same time, like remaining active and still using that tool to get the automation going and getting the sharing going and all that can only help maintain your level with the algorithm and everything else. If you just completely stop for 2-3 weeks or months or whatever this is going to be,
Yeah.
I'd be scared to see how you had to start over.
Yeah, exactly. And I had mentioned in one of my videos that sort of if you are just on Poshmark, probably is the best time right now to figure out what platform you think would maybe be a good fit and start moving your stuff. Because if you're a full-time seller, I'm sure that doesn't, you've already thought this through. If you're a part-time seller and you're relying on that money for Christmas gifts or to help you with the bills or whatever, there are other really great places. I would suggest eBay first if you don't list on eBay. You can manually do it. You can use Sidekick does have the app. You just did a video this week about CrossLister. You tried it out a little bit. So, however you decide to move stuff over, it's the best time ever if you're just on one platform to get on different platforms.
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, diversifying I'm planning on diversifying as well and opening up a Posh US closet and getting that going. So actually, for me, we briefly talked about this, and I tested out the cross listing part of the Sidekick tools and whatnot. And while it's not something I originally thought that I might use a whole lot, even though I had no issue with the app at all, actually being able to import my stuff from my listings that already exist and then post them to Posh US right from there, that's going to be a huge benefit. I realized that this morning that, wait a second, I could save hours, because otherwise, I don't keep my photos and stuff like that on my phone, right? So when I list something, it's not like I can go back 3 months later and be like, oh, I should list that same thing somewhere else. Those photos are deleted off my phone and gone. So the only other option would be to go into all my old listings and screenshot each photo.
Yeah. I've done that out of necessity before, and it's a pain.
Yeah.
It really is. Let's talk about Stallion Express for a minute, because now you've rolled into your almost second week of using it. You've done 3 shipments now with them? where you shipped or
My third shipment is actually on my front step, waiting pickup today. Yeah.
and that's went pretty good. So like let's look at the first shipment. You've seen movement? Has any of that stuff been delivered?
Yep. So the first shipments has sales basically right from the day that Canada Post went on strike, so November 15th. So I think the earliest item in that shipment was from November 15th. We're filming today on the 28th, and it's been delivered. So, I mean, if you're talking 13 days, and that was to the US, well, the Canada Post tracked packet, I think, says 5 to 8 business days. Plus, I have 5 day handling time, like on my eBay store anyway, because I don't I don't want to be rushed, and I don't care. Like, I'm going to give myself 5 days, right? So I think I'm still well within, the window of what people could expect if they're seeing, because I still have Canada Post tracked packet as the shipping method that's in eBay, because it calculates the rate, and it seems to be around the same rate I'd be paying through Stallion. So I've just left it in there. So if anybody's going by that, I think the time frame still works out. There is still a couple of items from that first shipment that haven't been delivered, or at least don't show delivered yet, but they're like at the post office in the town that that person lives, like in the US. Or there is one that's going through a carrier to PEI that hasn't shown up yet. But I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's going to be there any day, right? So,
Yeah. The one thing I will always say about Stallion, it's a little slow to see tracking, but once it starts moving, it really seems to go pretty good. I mean, obviously they're relying, if it's a US one, they're relying on it to get across to United States Postal Service so it can start actually getting tracked.
yeah.
But it's funny because I've heard so many people in the US always complain that it was always such a slow service. I'm talking about United States Postal Service, but maybe in comparison to Canada Post, it's a lot better, or it seems to be a lot more efficient. It's funny. So just because I think what we're used to with Canada Post, it seems pretty good to me. As soon as it starts tracking, I'm usually like, oh, okay. I haven't had too many issues with like lost packages or anything like that. So I don't know. I'm still a fan of doing it that way.
Yeah, I mean, so far it's been really good. I mean, the strike has forced me to branch out and find another way to actually like get these items to people who are paying to get them. Um, and I mean, it's worked out really well. Like, the one obstacle I do have in my area, being very rural, is I don't think there's actually like a dedicated UPS pickup in my area that's every day or even every other day. I think it's kind of a little bit like, I think there's a driver who kind of like controls my region, and then can come like every other day or something, but depending on what else is going on, maybe. Because when I go to like book the pickup through Stallion Express for UPS to come, sometimes it's like early morning and it's like, no, they're not available today. Sometimes it's even early morning the other day, like yesterday I did it, and they're like, no, we can't even do it like the next day or something. No, it wasn't yesterday. And anyway, sometimes it's even like they can't come that day if it's later in the day, and they can't come the next day.
Okay.
So the only difficulty there is like I might have to wait 2 days for UPS to actually come and pick it up, and then it's 2 days in transit, and then it might even be another day before I start seeing any tracking or processing of those individual packages. But I still don't think it's too bad. I mean, overall, like, given the climate and given the season and given everything else that's going on, I mean, if we got to wait like 5 days from the time I put it in a box to the time it starts tracking and I see that on eBay or whatever, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and I think what eBay needs is that tracking number. So once you've done that, you fulfilled what you need to do. Then there is a little bit of a window of where it needs to actually get there. But I've never had an issue. So for me, if I'm going to ship a package in, it's similar. Sometimes I can get a pickup the same day, and sometimes I can't get it until 24 hours from the day. And it really depends. It must have to do with like you said, drivers when they come through the location, what's available. So I've had it where I could have it picked up the same afternoon, and then I've had to wait. For me, it's not going that far. It's going 2 hours from me. Even though London's closer, all my shipments still go to Mississauga until like Toronto.
Yeah, that's going.
I think that must be the main like hub area of it, I'm assuming. I've actually been there before, because sometimes if we were doing like going to a Jays game or something like that, and I'm like, well, I'm not driving in the other direction to London and then coming back. I'll just hold my shipments, and we'll actually drop it off in the Mississauga drop off. There's also another one. So in our area too, there's also convenience stores. So you could do in Hamilton, Ontario. There's a convenience store that has like a little drop off location. There's no scanning done there. I think they just pick it up there. But you go there, and there's just like this corner full of people's crap, and they must pick it up at some point. I've done that too. Makes me a little more nervous, because it's literally you're just like throwing your stuff in a corner and hoping somebody picks it up. But yeah, there are different options for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess technically if I was ever in a bind, like I do have the third party trucking company that's just down the road from me, and they do handle UPS. The only problem is, like with my first box, I actually didn't even know there was a UPS pickup available in my area. Like I didn't know that UPS themselves actually had any presence in my area whatsoever. I'd never seen a UPS van around here once in 3 years I've lived here. So I thought to myself, okay, well, I've got to book it through Stallion Express, and it's, saying a time for pickup and all that stuff. But I know UPS doesn't actually come here. I'll just call that trucking company, tell them, put it on my stuff, they'll come pick it up, which they did within about an hour. And then a couple hours later, when it was actually scheduled, UPS shows up to pick up the package. I'm like, oh, crap, right? And they left a little ticket on the doorknob that was like, hey, we tried to pick up your package. So, like, it would move so much quicker if there was a way that I could actually put in the box. Like, I know there's a little box where you can put like instructions to UPS driver or a message or whatever, but I think that's more so like, hey, it'll be around the back or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think I can put in there, don't bother picking this up, the local guys will get it. Like, I don't think that's really what the plan or the deal is, but it would be good if I could do that. But
yeah, I use the same thing. I put like a package on the front step, that thing in that little box. But yeah. So I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but do you want to talk about you're just starting to try to figure out posh.com, or do you want to save that until you're a little further down the?
No, that's fine. I mean, I think we can touch on it. I don't have any experience with it yet, but I've gone through some of the setup. So yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the one thing I should say is, so Stallion, you kind of talked about being interested in it, and Stallion Express basically put the brakes on. They kind of like said to everybody, hey, listen, after I think it was the 25th of November or something like that, we'll no longer be accepting packages, but we're trying to work something out with Poshmark. They didn't. And the end result was they said, okay, listen, we'll still take them, but it's at your own risk. So if it gets stopped in the border and there's delay times, or they get rejected from the border, they just don't want to take any responsibility from that. I know there are other companies in Canada like that do the same thing that Stallion Express. I think one of them is like DK something. I need to look into alternatives in case it is actually a problem, because they can do the same thing. You can ship stuff into them. I'll try to link down below what it's actually called, because somebody might be interested in an alternative. But anyway, Stallion Express essentially just said like, hey, we're still willing to do this, but it's at your own risk. So
right. If it goes awry, don't sue us.
So for me, I'm still willing to roll the dice and use it. I don't see it being a problem, unless there's like, unless the U.S. government throws like crazy tariffs in, or something happens to really, really mess things up. I can't see it too big of an issue. But I guess we'll just see. I'm willing to risk it, and apparently you're willing to risk it too.
Well, I'm willing to try it out. I mean, I'm willing to at least see what happens, and if something goes crazy and I end up losing like 2 or 3 things, and it's like not even worth trying to get them back or something, okay, I'll just shut it down, you know what I mean, until it's resolved. It's not a big deal. But for me, really it's just trying to get set up and just understanding all the things I actually need to do. So creating an account was no problem, except that when I created the US account, I actually put my email address in wrong. So then I couldn't get some of the things I needed to get, because that wasn't a real email address. Like it didn't ask me to verify it or anything. So then I had to start over and create a second account with a username that I didn't actually want to use, but whatever. It's fine. That was just user error. That was just me being dumb. So I've got the account created. It looks like you actually need to be able to make a sale so that when you can go in and try to redeem your funds before you can enter in any information like an account information to withdraw those funds.
Right. So you need to make a sale. Yeah.
Right, because I spent a long time trying to figure out where do I put my information so that once I actually have funds in here, I can withdraw them. And then, yeah, between info that you shared and some other stuff I was able to look up online, you can't actually even add that until after you make a sale. So that's fine. And then speaking of, account information, obviously I need to be able to receive money in US dollars. So yeah, I did create an account with Wise where I can have US or Canadian funds in there. And I don't know if I did it correctly. I just, like, when I went to try to create a business account, it seemed like they were just asking for all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm like, okay, that can't be right. So I didn't bother with that. I went with personal account where it was just like, Canadian and US funds. And it does look like I can see the information I need. And I think I can see now what I need in order to put into Poshmark to receive that money.
Yep.
So really at this point, it's just a matter of doing it. And, maybe I'll use that cross-listing tool a little bit to import some of that old inventory and put some of that stuff on the US site and see what happens.
Yeah, I think can't hurt for sure. The one thing that's a little tricky will be pricing stuff. Like you can definitely take your Canadian price and just look at the exchange rate and change it. I've kind of went the opposite way, where now my initial price is US and then I change it to Canadian later. Yeah, but with the dollar and stuff, like it's just a little tricky to figure out, but I think you'll figure it out just fine. You can also kind of you can look up solds in well, you could go to ebay.com and recheck a sold and look at the US funds. I don't really necessarily always trust the sold comps that are actually in Poshmark. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be a lot of little stuff to figure out for sure.
Yeah, I don't comp anything on Poshmark because I think their search and their filters are just terrible compared to eBay. So, what I'll probably do is just for now, like I still comp everything on eBay, although where I'm selling mostly clothing, I kind of know what like most things go for, at least in Canadian dollars. But I sell a lot of clothing to the US on eBay, even though I'm on ebay.ca. So, I mean, obviously I know what it's going for. It's just, and then I can kind of use the exchange rate to understand what that means for US dollars. With Poshmark, it does seem like traditionally, at least here in Canada, you can get a few extra dollars maybe than you might be able to on eBay. So I might go ahead and do the exact exchange, but then maybe like add a couple dollars or something and just kind of see what goes from there. Take offers and stuff, be flexible with it to start.
For sure. You can list high on Poshmark because people are sure to come in low no matter what. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it'll be fun for you to see the difference because I mean Poshmark Canada is really good too. And it depends. I've heard other people say that they don't really care for the US one, but there's definitely a lot more people. And whether you decide to use automation with US Closet or whatever, I don't know, but you'll definitely notice a lot more traffic, I think, just in general on stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, what is there, like 34 or 38 million Canadians or something? It's under 40 million, and there's like 340 million Americans. So, yeah, I mean, it's 8-9 times the population. There's definitely going to be more eyes on that stuff. And honestly, I don't expect it to completely blow up and just be insanely good because I probably won't. It's hard to say like how much time I'm willing to want to put into a new platform to like try to build it up and all that kind of stuff. I might just let it sort of more organically grow on its own and like not care too much if it's a little bit slow to do that. But I mean, who knows, right? Like maybe it will just kind of take off and hopefully those packages get across with Stallion Express because wow.
Yeah, I think we're all, for as far as that goes, we're kind of in uncharted territories. But I dropped stuff off today, and nobody said anything weird. I actually tried. I messaged. So this is the part of it I don't understand, and I'm gonna have to reach out and try to talk to somebody at Stallion because I sent an email yesterday, and then I've asked a couple questions. But I think I need to talk to a physical person. So I was trying to around with eBay. If you set up your eBay and you want to try to use eBay labels, well, they offer eBay is it standard envelope, which is like basically like you could ship like a hockey card for 60 cents US with tracking and insurance. That tracking is not exactly like regular tracking, but eBay considers it to be tracked.
Okay.
I'm like, how can I use that to my advantage through Stallion Express? Because it still is just a third-party label. And the response I got through email is, well, sorry, we don't accept United States Postal Service third-party labels. And I'm like, I responded to them and said, hey, well, like the Poshmark labels are third-party labels. Is it that you don't accept them or you don't accept responsibility for what happens to them? I don't know which one it is.
Right.
So I'd like to get an actual answer because it would be kind of fun. I think that eBay standard envelope, it has to be whatever you're selling has to be under $20, and there's like a whole bunch of like little loopholes. But I'm like, it'd be really cool to try to do that because you could. I would probably try to sell postcards. Is what I would try, but it needs to be cheap enough to actually do it. And I was just thinking like, oh, that might be an interesting thing to do because I find all kinds of them at the bins when I'm yard selling, and I don't pick them up even though that they do sell pretty good on different platforms. But I'm like, I don't really want to deal with like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get you. That's interesting. That's actually a good point, though. Like that, they answered the question without, I think, fully answering the question. So, yeah, no, let me know what you hear back on that one because that'd be interesting to get the actual full answer. That sounded like a very diplomatic answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing I was looking at was like some books with media mail. The Stallion Tech, they used to have media mail, but when I look now, I can't figure out how to get it to pop up on the screen. It used to, and I think they took it away, or I'm not 100% sure. But that was the other thing through eBay labels, but the ebay.com labels is media mails on there, which for books, things like that can be.
It could have been too, like that there was too much abuse of media mail, like maybe from Canadian sellers or whatever. It was just like, it doesn't matter. I'll just put it on this. Like I hate to say it, but it seems like the kind of thing people would abuse if they can get a much cheaper rate. So maybe they were just like, you know what, we just don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah. I did have two things happen on eBay this week that were negative. I a lot of times talk about the positives, but these were two returns, and they were both very, very different. But I was annoyed in different ways about both. Okay, so one was a youth hockey jersey, and the person said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I really thought this was an adult jersey, even though in the title it says youth and kids. It says both those things." And I said, "No problem. Like, I'll take a return. That's totally fine." Well, of course, they open up as the return as something's not right or something. So it's as described. So I call eBay and I'm like, like this is so frustrating. Like the only thing I can do is buy a label. That's the only option I have now. I have to pay for this label. So the eBay agent did say to me, hey, like it actually falls under buyer's remorse. He's like, if you do have to buy a label, we will refund you the label. And I'm just like, it's still so annoying. I don't want to have to do this. So I talked to the person, and they actually did ship it back to me themselves out of pocket. And, I'll refund them the jersey, but I probably am not going to refund them any shipping or anything like that because it's not my fault that they didn't read it. They also did ask me if I had an alternate jersey. So that one's going to play out to be fine. This other one's super annoying. Okay. So I had another return. I sold a flip clock, okay, as for parts and repair. And I had said that it turns on and the radio works. So they opened item not as described on a parts only or parts for repair flip clock, and they're mad at me. They're like, I want a refund now. This thing doesn't work. I'm like, of course not. It's for parts and repair. Did you not? They're like, the radio won't even get in the station I want. This thing is junk. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I'm still open to your return. I'm not saying no to the return. You have accepts returns within 30 days for any reason, but on that, it still is buyer pays return. And it's also, you're complaining about what it is. Exactly.
Right.
It's
right.
So same thing. eBay suggested that I buy a label. And I said, I absolutely am not going to buy a label, but they did say, this Saturday will be where the person can force eBay to pay for a label. And they said, I won't have to if I call back in, they will refund me for that label.
Okay.
They also told me to look it over to make sure that they didn't like steal parts off it or something before I actually refund them. But how do you item not describe parts and repair? That's a new one for me.
That's pathetic, actually. I mean, really, that is pathetic. Like, I talk about it all the time, and I've mentioned it, in like kind of a cynical way in the last few videos I've made, because it keeps coming up. It's like, do people not read the title? You've got 80 characters. That's it. 80 characters is like, if that was, I mean, what are you looking at? 10 words, 12 words? Like, you can't read that and then look at the photos or read the description. Like, I would never buy something. I would never, ever click pay on something unless I actually knew what the hell it was that I was buying. I'd be like wanting to make sure, okay, before I spend my money, let's make sure that what does the description say? What do the photos say? Like, what has this person put in here so that I can make the proper decision on whether or not to buy this?
Yeah.
Like, I just can't imagine, and I don't know, maybe I'm being a little bit dramatic, but I can't imagine being like, I think it is stupid to do that, because it has, even if there's something wrong with it, or, regardless of the quality of the listing, like, if you're not doing your own due diligence to process the information that's clearly there in front of you, you should have no right to complain about anything. Like, I don't know. I think it's laziness and a sign of our current societal ways. But anyway, that's a topic for another day.
Yeah. Well, certainly on whether eBay or Marketplace or something that isn't just Amazon, where you can just buy brand new things. You can buy used stuff on Amazon too, but most people don't, right?
Right.
If the price is significantly different than the other ones, that's a good indication that there's a reason. Whether it's a defect, anything, like, it's not just like, oh, this one's such a good deal. Like, you would want to look to see why there's such a big difference. Even maybe it is something where it's like, oh, you know what? There's a big scuff on the back of it. I'm never going to look at the back of it. I don't care. I'd rather get 30% off or whatever it happened to be. But yeah, people just don't seem to do that.
No, and I've been in the market for another Xbox One just to use as like a media player, streaming device, or whatever at my house. So I've been browsing Xbox One stuff on Marketplace, and I've been seeing, now all of a sudden the algorithm knows John wants an Xbox One. So I started seeing all these ads for, the consoles, controllers, peripherals, and all that stuff. And then one that was popped into my feed, just listed, got a notification for it, was a controller and a headset, $25. I'm like, well, that's a great deal, right? A wireless Xbox One controller and a brand new headset for $25. What is wrong with it? Right away, I knew there had to be something wrong with it. So I read the description. They're like, look, it has what appears to be staining on the back of this controller, but it's not actually staining. There's some kind of chemical reaction that's happened to the plastic. It must have made contact with something. It looks like it's the splatter stain, but there's nothing there. It doesn't wipe off. I'm like, okay, well, it's on the back of the controller anyway. I don't care about that. Like, this is a fully functioning, great wireless controller and a brand new headset for $25. I'll buy it.
Yeah.
But had I not read that, and then I get home with it, take it out of the bag, I'm like, this thing's dirty as hell. Like, that would have been my own fault. It's just, I don't know. It really does, like, get me going. And I feel like Peter Griffin, it really grinds my gears.
Yeah.
Because it's true, man. Like, it's so lazy to not click on something and see if anybody has written something in the description.
Yeah, 100% agree. So it's been even though it's been a little bit of a trying week with Poshmark and everything else, you're still making sales on eBay. Did you have a particular sale?
I did have a good sale this week, and actually, it's a good sale because not only did I make good profit on it, but it is a testament to my newly revised shipping policies. I spent a significant amount of time in this last week revising my shipping policies, creating flat rate tables for different regions of Canada. And so I sold these 3 Avon 1980s Christmas ornaments together for like $54 or $57 or something like that. I mean, my buy cost was like $2. But these were listed before with calculated shipping from Canada Post, which the person who bought it was in Regina, Saskatchewan, I'm in rural Nova Scotia. I charge $9.99 shipping, and I'm able to ship it to them using Stallion Express for $9.96 within 3 cents.
Amazing.
I mean, that's insane. So, like, obviously, these things have been listed now for a couple of seasons. They didn't sell before because no one wanted to pay that kind of shipping. So it's a testament to being able to actually drop the shipping rate, and another like big pro for Stallion Express here. But yeah, really, really cool little pieces, and hopefully it gets there in time for them for Christmas. But good profit on that. And unfortunately, I didn't have a huge sales week, so the box that they're in to send that out, it's buyers have paid a little bit less for shipping than I actually have to pay out this week for that box anyway, but I had such good profit on those that it covers it. So
yeah, and you have the ability to, like you just said, to make sales that you maybe wouldn't have if you just had calculated shipping on only, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So that's really cool. So I'm actually going to go with a pretty unpopular one. So I'm going to go with a Poshmark Canada sale, which we know isn't going to go anywhere yet. Okay. So I had somebody message me back and forth, and they really wanted this jacket that I got. So this summer it wasn't the summer, it was the end of the summer, might have been September. We went to a Jays game, and it was a cold day. And my wife was like, I wish I wore a jacket. I'm such an idiot. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe we can go. There's a sports store. It's actually, technically, it's Sports Check.
Okay.
But this Sports Check, because it's directly across from Scotiabank Arena, which is where the Maple Leafs and the Raptors play, right? It's heavily Blue Jays, Raptors. If there's a team that comes into town, they'll throw like that team's jersey in there, but it's very local, very Toronto. But they had these winter jackets from the season past, and they were Nike jackets, and they're downfill jackets. They're really nice, and they were $60.
Wow.
Okay. Retail on them was about $240, something like that. So she's like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, just buy the jacket. If you don't want it later, I'll buy it back from you and sell it. It's okay.
Right.
So I wound up buying. So we decided to go back to the car before we went to the stadium, and I wound up buying 2 for myself. So I'm like, I'm going to keep 1 for myself, and I'm going to sell 1. So 1 went on to sell for $175 Canadian. So that was still a deal. I think I listed mine for $200.
Yeah.
And I messaged the person and said, hey, like, just so you know, this isn't going to move for a while. And they're like, yeah, I'm in the same situation. I'm willing to wait. This is a Christmas gift. So, maybe if it gets closer, something might change. But, as far as I'm concerned, I hope by Christmas this can get to him. He really wants it. He's very happy. And that's probably an unpopular sale of the week. But I think that's still pretty awesome because I've been putting in the effort to still sell on Poshmark. You just can't ship. And if you have buyers who are understanding, that money is going to become available later, right?
Well, yeah.
Still going to work out.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that's a really good sale of the week. Not only was it a good investment and you sold a good item, you're maintaining, your flow on Poshmark, which, I mean, obviously eventually this is all going to come to an end, and operations are going to resume. And like you say, you can sell things now, you just can't ship them. But what that's going to mean is, yeah, it's going to take a while for them to catch up and all that stuff. But we're going to have a couple of probably really big payday weeks. Like, I cash out once a week, and so that I get my money on Tuesday along with my eBay payment. So like, there's probably going to be a couple of weeks, whenever it is, maybe it's January, where it's like, oh, wow, this was a really nice week, because it's going to keep building up and building up as long as those buyers are willing to wait.
Yeah. And for anybody super unhappy about that, me picking that for the sale of the week, I also, this past week, did you see I had a triple Nintendo 8-bit Nintendos go out?
I did, yeah.
That was wild. I cleaned one, listed it, it sold right away. I'm like, well, I might as well clean another one. I cleaned it, listed it with a different game. It sold right away to the same person. Then my third one was parts only. I tried to test it. I probably could have got it to work because it did come up on the screen with like Mario and everything, but it was very pixelated and more pixelated than it normally is because it is Nintendo. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to take a chance on this one. I don't want to fix it. And it's still, I listed it, sold it the same day. I'm like, wow, if I could have days like this every day.
Yeah.
Flips. Those aren't normal days for sure.
No. And the thing about the NES is that, like, if you get the right price on them and they're working, like, people are like, yes, okay, cool, I'll buy it. because they are so finicky, and so many of them do have like the blinking light,
Yeah.
or you got to jiggle the carts, so much to try to get a game working, and then God, don't bump it while you're playing, or you lose everything, right?
Yeah.
Now, just a pro tip, because we are on the topic of NESs. So for anybody out there who does have like one that you get the blinking light a lot, and maybe you can get it to work most of the time, but sometimes it doesn't. And if you're not looking to replace the pins, if that's not something you want to do yourself, a lot of times what I do to get that working is you don't even have to like press the game down as long as it's in. So you can try that, and if you hit the power button and it starts blinking real bad, hold the reset button and then grab the cartridge by the end while it's still in there, and you're holding the reset button while the power's still on, and just jiggle the cartridge back and forth so that like the connection points are just getting a really good like bit of friction, and then release the reset button. 9 times out of 10, that will work. Now, sometimes some systems, for whatever reason, won't do it if the cartridge is up. Sometimes it does need to be down, so you kind of got to get your 2 fingers down there, and it's a little bit hard on the outside of your fingers because that plastic was hard back in the 80s. But I mean, yeah, a lot of times that can get it to work. If you don't want to go through the process of fixing the pins. So a little pro tip from John, the video game guy.
Yeah. What I did want to pick your brain about this too, because I was waiting for. So Black Friday will be, when this comes out, it'll be already Black Friday, but I'm hoping to get one of the, what are they called? So they're like the little they're not mini systems, but they play Super Nintendo and 8-bit Nintendo games in the little system, and you can test them out. They make aftermarket controllers. You can also use the regular controllers. I think you have, right?
Well, are you talking about like the Pi system, like Raspberry Pi or something like that?
No, the ones that I thought you had one for some reason. It's the ones that actually play the cartridges, but it's like a new system.
Oh, okay. So that you can play various different console cartridges all in one. Yeah, that's the Retron.
Yeah, Retron.
So, yeah, there's various ones like the Retron 2, 3, I think all the way up to 5. And yeah, it's got different cartridge slots and then just a switch that you hit. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about buying one just for testing games because, at least then the machine works fine and it's not the machine being finicky, right? But I don't know. I've read different people say that they feel like some of those machines can damage the games as well, but I don't know enough about them.
I will say that the earlier models of them for sure. So like if you were talking like Retron 2 and maybe even 3, some of those cartridge slots can be a little bit tighter. I don't know if it's actually going to damage your game to like put it in there and test it out or whatever. But like if you were using that and you're really like having to push it in hard into a slightly too tight of a slot, for repeated use, we're talking, like you play this all the time and stuff. I could see how maybe that could could maybe affect the pins on those gold cartridges or whatever. But I think on the newer ones, they kind of took that feedback and it typically works just fine. There's very, very rarely a game that just will not play on them because they just, for whatever reason, like some Super Nintendo games, they've got like a different chip inside or a different like board or something, or like some of the, the later Sega Genesis games have this one thing, and it just doesn't work perfectly with the Retron. But I mean, we might be talking like 10 games out of 2,000, so I wouldn't even worry about that. But if you ever do go down that route, I guess, to use it as a game tester and your game doesn't work, just make sure like you have that list of games that don't work in a Retron next to you, so the game might actually work.
Yeah, well, that's definitely good advice. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it's hard because the easy thing to do would be like, okay, just keep one of every system around. I don't really want to. Yeah, I know you do. and now you started to kind of move out the stuff that you're okay with letting go, right? Or maybe you have it available on a different platform or on a mod or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anytime I've tried to collect anything, I guess I'm not a collector. I do like to collect things, but then at some point I'm like, you know what? I think I'd rather just get rid of this stuff, and then I'm on to the next thing. So I don't know. I can't see myself doing that. I know eventually at some point, if you just wanted to sell it anyway, you could. But my mindset normally is just to sell it in the first place.
Right, right. Yeah, it's hard for me to like buy stuff for myself, but you know, there was definitely some things that I wanted, and I did pare back my collection quite a bit because, I mean, like especially when I got the Super Nintendo Mini, so the actual like classic SNES that is legit hardware that Nintendo put out. Those can be modded really easily. So like I hacked that and just put a 16-bit or gigabyte thumb drive on the back of it, and now it plays the entire library of like 6 of the old systems. So do I need a Nintendo system and like a stack of games when it's all right there and it's this big and I can put it into my HDMI TV? No. So it was easy for me to get rid of some of that stuff. But I do still have a Nintendo and about 8 games. I just don't have a Nintendo and 78 games. I pare it down some.
Yeah, and that makes sense too. But yeah, no, it is fun. It is fun to collect them and be nostalgic about them as well. So I don't know. I'm like so on the fence, but it's like I said, at the end of the day, a lot of times when I'm like, oh wow, this game is worth what? Yeah, I'd rather sell it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. We had touched on it briefly that you had a couple of negative experiences there on eBay, and you know what? I don't know what just triggered it, but we were just talking about this, and for whatever reason, this popped into my head. I actually had somebody open up a claim on eBay for me as well, and it was as an item not received. And of course, it's not received because Canada Post is on strike.
Right.
So they bought something on like November 12th or 13th, and I mailed it out right away because in fairness, we didn't know for sure if Canada Post was going to go on strike. So we weren't going to like stop operations and wait and see. So then on the 15th, they go on strike. It's already at the post office. It's supposed to be going to Massachusetts. And, the tracking is in there. So they messaged me first and was like, hey, I should have had this by now. I want my money back. Like, this is ridiculous. I messaged them back. I'm in the process of messaging them back to say, well, Canada Post went on strike after you purchased this. It was already in the system. I had no idea. It's out of my hands. And as I was writing that back to them, they opened up the claim, item not received. Now, the funny thing is, technically, I don't even think it's like enough time for them to even open that claim because, 5 to 8 business days for tracked packet, plus I've got 5-day handling. Like I don't even know if it's at that point yet where they could legitimately even open that claim. But in any case, I responded to the claim itself with that exact same message I replied with and said, eBay can see there's tracking in here. It shows maybe delayed due to a labor disruption. There is nothing I can do here, and I cannot refund you your money because you're going to get this item once operations resume. Like, there's nothing I can do about this. I haven't heard anything back. I had until the 3rd to satisfy the claim. I assume that eBay is going to see that and side with me, and I don't need to call them and be like, hey, guys, just as a heads up. But I might call them anyway and be like, hey, guys, just as a heads up, because
yes,
they don't have a good track record of like backing up logical, reasonable buyer situations or seller situations.
And I think they've automated a lot of that back end too that says like, yeah, this guy's right. John didn't give, this isn't moving. This is completely wrong. Yeah. This guy wins. And then you got to call and say, wait a minute, that's not the case. So for you to call and say, hey, can you look at this and just, verify it's okay? And I'm sure they'll say, yeah, what we're doing right now is we're extending handling time by X. You don't have to worry about it until this date. And then, if you wanted to, I've been trying to be better about stuff like this. I would go back to the buyer and say, hey, listen, this is how long it's been extended to. I'm sorry it's an inconvenience. But I just want to be transparent going forward, just to buy some better points on not, because the feedback thing now, it's so loose and people can get away with just about anything that they want now. So the nicer you can be or the more transparent you can be about what's going on and explaining your side of it as kind as possible. Because I can understand if I was in the same situation as someone stuck in the mail and I wanted it, I'd be like, this is kind of crap. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah, no, for sure. I get their point of view, but yeah, I probably should just proactively call eBay. I call them, but play with the chat, play with the AI chat bot for 5 minutes so that I can get someone to call me.
Yeah, that thing is so annoying. It tries to pop up with like automated solutions. It's like, I know, like, just call me.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So have you got any plans for the holiday season here? But it's already going to be December. Can you believe that?
I,
First of all.
I know it's crazy. We so it's just my girlfriend and I, and we don't like buy all kinds of gifts for tons of people. We don't get gifts from people. Like we keep it pretty low key as far as the amount of people that are involved. But our place is already completely decked out. The tree's up. We buy presents throughout the year, and I just have a closet down in my office where I've just got a stack of presents for her. I just got to get wrapped up and put under the tree. So quite honestly, we're pretty much done and ready for Christmas, and almost a month in advance. Once I get back from this current dog sitting stay on like the 3rd or whatever it is, then it's going to be like real cozy time, because I also get off work on the 20th and don't go back until January 6th.
Yeah, that's a nice break.
Yeah. So it's going to be 3 weeks of just Christmas and whiskey, basically.
Oh, sounds wonderful. Yeah, we just got our tree up. This past Monday, we did a big chunk of any of the shopping that we'd have to do for the holidays, and yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I've never been a really big Christmas guy, but I'm trying to get into it, and it's good. I'm liking it.
It's grown on me. I was a little grinchy, the first few years that we were together. She was always like, oh, okay, like Christmas, it's really big for her, and I was just like, whatever. But no, it's grown on me big time, and sometimes I feel like the Grinch, near the end when his heart grows 3 sizes and he starts to learn to love again. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And thank you guys so much for watching. For us, Christmas might come early this year. We're at 98 subs. Our goal was to hit 100, so we're only a few away. Please don't unsub. That would be a disaster. But if you are watching this far into the video and you're not subbed, please consider giving it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more content. Behind me, you'll see my Christmas tree. You can see this is a homemade Oogie Boogie on top, and Jack hugging the tree. All Disney ornaments. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, maybe next week we can get John to show his tree. I got a feeling he's got a retro tree. Ours is a combination of new and old Disney collectibles, but there's a lot of them. Anyways, if you guys like videos like this, please give it a big thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing for more content. We'll see you guys very soon.